What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only Tesla stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to be breaking down why tomorrow is going to be a massive day for Tesla, a massive day for the markets, and a massive day for our economy. Now, before I break anything down about why tomorrow is going to be so huge based off what the Fed is doing, I do have to mention a couple of things real quick. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Don't take any of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed 6 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And you could always sell these 6 free stocks for cash and use that cash to buy some Tesla shares for free in this limited time offer that ends in just 2 weeks. So please check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So looking at Tesla, this thing was up about 2.39% for the day. And I actually thought it was more probable for this thing to maybe drop a little more, but we actually got the bounce sooner than expected, right? Instead of going as low as 620 and getting that bounce, we ended up bouncing at 635, which is actually a pretty decent sign. But a lot of the price action for Tesla is going to be dictated by tomorrow, because tomorrow is going to be a huge day, like I said. And now, if you were watching the charts, you would have noticed that if this thing pushed up all the way past that 650, 653 range and we started to push up, you would know that the next key level of resistance would have been around that 680 range. And that's very close to where Tesla got rejected. It was around 679. So that's where we got that slight rejection. And we managed to actually hold above 650 after that. So you could see how this thing reacts to these support and resistance levels. So with that said, I want to actually talk about tomorrow and why it's going to be so huge. So the big thing that's coming out is, remember, the FOMC meeting lasts between the 14th and the 15th of June. Obviously, tomorrow is the 15th, and that's going to be the big day where we get the rate hike announced. So looking at the Fed Rates Monitor, according to investing.com, the probabilities have actually shifted over the last couple of days. Yesterday, I showed you guys how it showed that a 50 basis point rate hike seemed more probable, but now it's actually showing a 75 basis point rate hike being much more probable with a 96.5% chance. So it seems most likely we're going to get a 75 rate hike. Now, another thing that's very interesting about these statistics would be this right here. Right over here, we can see that the market is already priced in that 75 basis point rate hike. Now, if you're new to the channel, I think I kind of jumped a little bit. If you don't know what a rate hike is, basically, inflation is super high. We printed all this money and we did a ton of things that caused it to just soar to the absolute moon. The Fed did act a little bit slow, in my personal opinion, and that's obviously a contentious claim, but I just feel that way. So when the Fed acted slow, now what they're trying to do is they need to slow down our economy so that they could bring inflation down. An economy can't grow too fast. The US dollar cannot be losing its value this quickly because the purchasing power for everyday Americans is actually going down, right? $100 back in the 1980s was not the same thing as what it is now. In fact, $100 from 5 years ago is not the same either, thanks to inflation. It's kind of eating away at the value of our money. So with that said, if we do nothing, inflation is going to keep soaring. We'll be at risk of hyperinflation. It's going to be a disaster. So something must be done. And that's why the Fed is becoming more hawkish. Hawkish just refers to the Fed becoming more strict on monetary policy. They're becoming more, how should I say, hawkish in a way where they're going to be tightening from a quantitative perspective, or quantitative tightening is just them becoming stricter, right? So right now, there's a debate between, is it going to be a 50 basis point rate hike or 75? And right now it seems like they're going to raise the federal funds rate by 75 basis points as the market's pricing that in. And that's equivalent to 0.75% if you want to be fancy or say it that way. But you understand my point. The market is pricing this in already. So we're preparing for a big hit to the markets, a big slowdown. And some people worry that this could be one of the things that causes us to essentially enter a recession. Now, the market hasn't really announced this just yet. We can't confirm this without getting the second quarter GDP report. But as of right now, that's definitely on the table. Now, right here, we're actually seeing a lot of articles coming out talking about how the Fed is likely to boost interest rates by 0.75 of a point this week. Once again, 75 basis points or 0.75%. That to me is going to be massive. Now, there's also an opportunity cost, or more like a consequence of this decision, because remember, back in May, if we time travel back to the month of May, Jerome Powell said, the chairman of the Fed, he said that 75 basis points was off the table. He said he didn't think we'd actually get to that point. So if he actually raises rates to by 75 basis points, it's going to cause him to lose a lot of credibility, right? It's the uncomfortable truth. But perhaps we entered a point as we were seeing inflation soaring, especially after that last CPI report on Friday. And I mentioned to you as to why that was such an important CPI report, because it may be affecting his decision. Powell is willing to come out as someone that did not tell the truth for the sake of improving the country if he actually does push a 75 basis point rate hike, and it does tell a lot about what type of situation the country is in. Right now, gas is just going through the roof, and it's hurting supply chains across America, especially the price of diesel, excuse me. Diesel is just going through the absolute roof. And if it reaches like $10 a gallon, it's just going to be detrimental. So we really need to pick up on our policies. We really need to work very hard to address these issues. And that is part of why we may end up seeing Powell become even more hawkish than some people would have expected. Now, I mentioned this and I warned you guys about this a couple of days ago based off what Elon Musk was tweeting about. And he had this very funny tweet that came out, which is funny. But like I said before, these jokes have a lot of important value and truth behind them. So I want to remind you of what Elon Musk tweeted just a couple of days ago. He basically posted this meme or this picture that says, "On God, 8 years of 0% rates was bussin'." So he's basically saying, this basically means that when rates were so low, our economy flourished, right? It did very well, or you could argue it did really well, but there were all these different factors that may have not made it as well. But I'm not going to get into too many details about that. Let's just say our economy was theoretically booming over the last couple of years, thanks to the fact that we had these low rates, but inflation is mid, so we need hike 75 basis points, no cap for real. So that's pretty funny. It's a joke, but we need hike 75 basis points. Real talk is what Elon Musk said about this. You understand where I'm going with this, right? He's talking about how, inflation is getting serious. We need a more hawkish Fed. They got to start addressing these issues as soon as possible. So right now, it seems like 75 is more probable, just as investing.com is showing right over here. We're probably going to get that 75 basis point rate hike, in my opinion. Now, what does this mean for the markets? What does this mean for Tesla stock? Now, looking at the S&P 500, you'll notice that we have all these gaps down. Right? We had this big gap that pushed us down, another big gap that pushed us down. And from an RSI perspective, we're basically oversold. If I were to actually zoom out and show you the more macro perspective, right over here, look how oversold the S&P 500 or the SPY is. You can see this big drop that we had right over here down to that 31.97 range. And it's no different with the NASDAQ. If I show you the NASDAQ, very similar story. Very oversold. It dropped really hard. It already essentially priced in this rate hike. So I theorize that the reason why the market took such a big hit, it wasn't just the rate hike, it's also uncertainty, right? The market hates uncertainty. We want to be certain about what inflation is, what the Fed is doing. We need to be as certain as possible to give us a good trajectory of where on earth our economy is going, what the markets are going to be doing, how businesses may be performing over the next couple of years. So that's the reason, in my opinion, as to why we did see it actually drop this hard over such a short period of time. So because we're so oversold, it's possible we actually get a little bit of relief after we get the rate hikes, in my opinion. So what could end up happening is the SPY may have found a temporary bottom. And what I think would happen is if we hypothetically get that 50 basis point rate hike, which would technically be a surprise now that so many analysts, so many economists are predicting a 75 basis point rate hike. So if we get surprised with that 50 basis point rate hike, the market might actually rally and we'd probably fill both of these gaps. And as a result, Tesla would start pushing up as well, Tesla would start approaching that 700 range if we get a 50 basis point rate hike. But that's very unlikely now based off what many economists and analysts are saying. So what happens if we get that 75 basis point rate hike? Well, it's actually kind of a tough call because it technically is priced in. And I don't think the market's just going to start panicking. I mean, we're essentially seeing it coming from this point. So it is possible we actually get a little bit of relief. The SPY pushes up just a little bit, and we actually might even fill this gap up here before seeing a little bit more downside later on. So I'm actually aiming a little bit more towards that because the rate hike is priced in and the market does like certainty. So for Tesla, what do I think is going to happen, right? Let's go over the two main possibilities. Hold on, let me move the chart into the 5-minute counts just to draw this out, right? Because I can't predict this perfectly, but what I can do is just show you some of the possibilities. So what you'll notice is compared to the 14th, this thing had this low and we've been respecting this upward trend right here, right? See this upward trend that's forming? So I theorize maybe I should use the 3-minute candles just to make this, I want to make this like as clear as possible for you. What could end up happening is just like this. If this thing drops, okay, we have support around that 650 range. We got to bounce off there today. So that's a very key level to look out for. If we drop below that, the next key support zones around that 630 to 635 range. We've kind of bounced between different ranges around there. And if that doesn't hold us, 620 is the next key level to be looking out for. Now, if we're super bullish, we're going to have resistance around that 680 range. And if we break that, we're most likely going to head towards 700. And if we get to 700, it's going to act as resistance. But we're notorious for kind of breaking past that range quite quickly. So I don't think it's going to be that strong resistance. The stronger resistance would be around that 720, 733 range. So what do I think is going to happen, right? Let's just go over the possibilities. All right, so what do I think is going to happen given what on earth Jerome Powell may be announcing and based off what on earth the Fed could end up doing, right? So when it comes to the price action of Tesla, it's very important to actually look at what has and has not been priced in. So right now, the market is, I wouldn't say they necessarily expected this quickly, but they already started pricing in that 75 basis point rate hike, and 95.3% of the drop has already been priced in. With that said, I mean, if we hypothetically got that 50 basis point hike, if the Fed surprised us with that, we're actually going to see a bit of a rally. And let me actually go over the hypothetical situation. So this white line I'm about to draw represents what would happen if Jerome Powell suddenly actually surprised us and he ended up stating that we're going to get a 50 basis point hike. So just to draw this out into tomorrow, we might see some sideways action, and then as Powell gets ready to speak, I expect the market to start kind of tanking, and Tesla's going to start dropping just a little bit like this. Then all of a sudden, imagine Powell surprises the markets, because the reason why it's a bit of a surprise is because right now we're not sure about what's going to happen, and the market is going to gain that certainty. The market likes certainty, and then because the market already priced in, or it's very close to pricing in that 75 basis point hike, what's going to happen is we're oversold in a sense, and the market's going to start rallying because the Fed wouldn't be as hawkish, as strict as we would have, prepared for. We already prepared for the Fed to be very strict, and then they wouldn't be as strict if they give us that 50 basis point hike, lower than maybe some economists would have expected. So as a result, the market's going to start to push up. And Tesla is easily going to go back to that 680 range, maybe get a bit of a rejection off of it, then start pushing above it back to that 700 range, get another rejection, trade a little sideways, and we might actually break past 700, right? Maybe get rejected off 720, then drop, and then start to kind of drop after that. And we could actually close around that mid, maybe low $700 range, maybe 705, something like that. So this is what would happen if we get that 50 basis point hike, in my opinion, just one of the possibilities. And I would be pretty bullish if that is the case. Now, does that mean it's good? The answer is no, because right now inflation is pretty high. And because it's so high, a lot of people know that the Fed has to be stricter. The Fed really needs to do a better job. And statistically, according to investing.com, it's saying that there's about a 3% chance, maybe 4% chance now that we actually get that 50 basis point hike. No, I can't really confirm this because yesterday it said something completely different. But right now, a lot of people are anticipating that 75 basis point hike, a 0.75% hike, or the Fed becoming even more hawkish. And some people would be surprised because Powell isn't notorious. He's not known for being this hawkish. He's typically more dovish. He's typically more, he likes to give the market more freedom. He doesn't like to be too strict. So if he does announce a 75 basis point rate hike, it's going to have an effect on the markets. I'm going to show you what may end up happening to Tesla tomorrow, right? This is just hypothetical. And I'm just going to do this based off my own deductions and based off price action. So take it with a grain of salt, but it's just a possibility. So what could happen is the market opens. Okay, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty, and slowly we're probably going to start to drop as Powell starts to come on, just like from before. And what may end up happening is Powell is going to speak. The market may get a bit of a push, and then Powell is going to say something like, yeah, actually, it's time. Inflation is high. We're going to have to try to bring it down to give the best possible outcome for Americans, and we have to be more hawkish. And then he announces a 75 basis point hike. All of a sudden, Tesla's going to trade sideways. The market might kind of panic a little bit. The headlines are going to come out and say, the Fed is going hawkish. The Fed is becoming strict. Is it time to sell? Are we in a recession? Things like that may end up coming out. And a lot of the damage, or should I say drop, like I said, is priced in, but it's not 100% priced in just yet. And the market has a tendency of kind of exaggerating, going crazy. So we're probably going to see a bit of a drop. In my opinion, Tesla might go as low as that 633 range, maybe get a bounce off that. Hopefully we don't go as low as 620. I would anticipate we don't go that low, but just wanted to put it out there. We're probably going to see a move like this, and we may end up closing way down here around 630, maybe even lower, maybe 625, something like that. So this is just my prediction. Once again, if the Fed kind of surprises some people and gives us 50 basis points for the hike, we're probably going to push up. If it's 75, we're probably going to push down, in my opinion. Now, the only problem with me saying it's going to push down is the market likes certainty, and a lot of this has been priced in already, so maybe the market will be more logical and won't drop too hard. But like I said before, downside would be more probable than us actually pushing up after that announcement, in my opinion. I can't promise that. It's just a possibility. And with that said, I want to just thank each and every one of you for listening. Please be prepared for lots of choppy price action for tomorrow. Be prepared and watch what Powell says carefully, because this will be a massive move for the markets, for billions of people all over the world, for economies all over the world, for the United States, and for the future trajectory of this country and its economic policies. With that said and done, thank you for listening. Tesla could be down, but I would not lose faith because the long term is still incredibly bullish. And I still know that if you give it time, it's going to recover. In the short term, there probably will be drops, right? It's a-okay to me because it's a very good buying opportunity for the long term. With that said and done, thank you for listening. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Tesla to the moon, and peace out.